I landed with the Ninth Marine Expeditionary Brigade. That was the official landing for the Marine troops. They were telling us that we had to stop communism from taking over there. When the medevacs they always had a gunship with them for to protect them. And I said prayers for that because a lot of times we got attacked with them, and we would fire smoke to where we saw some of the enemy that were firing at us, and that gunship would be have them on was on them in a second. We had to bring the dead back. We had to bring wounded back who were wounded bad, and I'll never forget. Uh, See, back on the back of the tank where your plates are, there'd be Marines on there, some in body bags, some just laying there dead, and blood's flowing out of it, and that's going down in the engine. And that was the smell I will never forget. And as soon as we got them somewhere where we could let them off, maybe it was at the hospital at Marble Mountain. They had a Navy Quonset Hut hospital, but that was a terrible smell. And I had the loader get the 5 gallon water pan and keep filling it up and pouring it down there to try and rinse that off the hot engine. I hit a mine. It was almost 100 pounds of TNT. Now all the crew made it, but I was closer to. It blasted right through the bottom of the turret, but it was under the main gun, which saved my life, I guess. But I still got blown out of the hatch and right off the tank. I had a corpsman. He got over to me, and he knew I kept going like this. That means I can't hear, and I couldn't even hear myself. And he kept pointing, and what I knew in a few seconds that he was pinpointing where my vehicle was still. That was which way. So I crawled, still couldn't hear nothing. And when finally I could see the antennas sticking, and then my hearing, and within an hour, my hearing snapped back. And my crew was there. They said, "We were looking all over for you." He says, "We looked at you, and 1 second you're there, and the next second you're gone." They medevaced me back to Marble Mountain, where that hospital was, that Naval Quonset Hut hospital. And the doctor says, "Where do you hurt? All this?" I says, "My neck's killing me." He says, "We'll get an X-ray and we'll see what it is." And he says it came back and it said didn't show anything. I mean, everywhere you looked in that naval hospital there, Quonset Hut Hospital, inside there were dead Marines laying there, and for no legs, no arms, no. That was horrible. It's like a horrible place to be. So they got me out of there the next day. I thought they were going to send me to Philadelphia or something, but no. Gunny, Gunny, the Gunny sergeant picked me up in a jeep, and I had hurt my knee, my right knee coming out of there, my hip, and my shoulder, and obviously my neck. And I was mad they didn't send me out of there. He says, I can't even walk. He says, well, I'll give you a crutch. I says, how am I going to get on a tank with a crutch? And the doctor says, somebody will give you a leg up. All right, doc, come on with me. Get a taste of it. So off I went with the gunny, and he took me back to another tank. They told me 2 times, somebody's going to come around and give me a Purple Heart. Somebody's going to come around and give me a purple. I says, cancel that because I'm getting out of here. That was a bad place to be. I got some burns. They weren't like really bad. There's some burns. But I was in another, I had some, they were fixing something on my tank. I forget what it was, but they sent me out with another tank commander who needed a gunner. And he was going down the beach or coming up the beach. And what happened, he got fired at from back, where the jungle was lake, and that was the opposite way than the ocean was on our right. We were coming up north. And what he did, instead of just firing, stopping and firing there, because he could see, he kept going. And I said, what are you doing? He says, well, I can go in there and get them. I'm there. Don't go in there. They're going to ambush you. Just stay back and fire from here. He moved right in there. And right away, they put a heavy machine gun on our attach at the top of the tank. The driver got out. The loader got out the driver's seat. We didn't have any hydraulics. We had, we couldn't find, we were pinned down. We couldn't get, it says, you got to use the manual turning lever. It's like this, to the right of you. And you probably will move this fast. Maybe, if you're lucky. I had to come all the way around with that tube in order to line up with and then there's a fuel line that comes up from the driver's compartment, goes to the top of the engine. Well, that broke, and then underneath the turret that I was standing on, the batteries got wrecked, and they were sparking, and they started a fire down there, which more diesel fuel came out of that broken fuel line. Just, we had ammunition all around the inside of the tank, and that's coming up higher than flames. And I got burned on my left hand arm a little bit, but finally I got it around there, and out he went, and out I went, and just got smoke inhalation. That's all. That was my most scary. I thought I was going to get blown. The whole thing was going to blow up, and that's what happened with it. Because how are you going to get a plane? You're going to have no fire engine come to put it out. That just burned until all the ammunition blew and everything. And we were all the way out at the beach by then. Once they take on that Marine Corps uniform as a medic, not a medic, yeah, as a corpsman, which is a medic too, they become Marines. Marines give them that. But that's a dangerous, dangerous job. I had a 45. That was my personal arms, and a shoulder holster. And I never thought I would use that against an enemy. And I couldn't believe how many times I did use it against an enemy. It's sneaking up with a satchel charge to throw it up onto the tank, try to get lucky, and somebody's got their hatch open. If it went into the tank, we were all dead ducks. But I got him with the 45. It was probably 3, 4 times. That's enough. All the rest of the times, the gunner could get him, or I could get him with the override, or the driver would get him and just run him over. Yeah. And that was I talked nonchalant about that, but what I had to do, I mean, I was just a little over 2 years out of from a Catholic high school. Thou shalt not kill. That played on me for months, and then to see it in action and through your scopes made it worse. I got used to it. In fact, there was a time that I enjoyed it, but that's what scared me. Would I ever be able to get back to the way I was? I hated them bastards, certainly. You're not going to do it unless you hate the bastards. And what they used to, what we saw that them did to say they captured a Marine and just tear him apart, hang him up, cut his balls off, stick him in his mouth. Just horrible stuff. And I didn't like them doing that to my Marines. We got word that the Ninth Marines were leaving, and the whole group from 3-9, 3rd Battalion, Ninth Marines are going to come in, and they did that in the dark. I guess they made it some kind of a, I don't know how it would have played. I mean, if they had hit us with mortars when that was happening, that would be that was such a stupid thing to do. Instead of doing it in the daylight, where you could have people out watching. But when we got in there that day, I saw that happen, and then they sent a note around that all the tanks were going to go with this major, and it's going to be a recon. Yeah, going to be a recon with I think it was 3 tanks. He says, and we're going to leave at daybreak. So that's what we did. He told us the tanks had to go and through this cemetery, which you could see they were mined. You could see it was a fishing line, because it had the morning dew on it, and it would be as the sun was coming up. You could see it was all, and I refused to take my tank through there. You don't have to. What it's could be there with heavy armor destroyers. But all the tank commanders said no. So he gathers a bunch of his infantry, and he goes into that village, and he marched the villagers out, children, old people, whoever was there, and they had to go first. Children had to walk through that vegetative. And then he was going to, after they set off all these they were APC mines. That's just for for infantry, walking people. But nobody knew that. And He was going to leave without even calling in medevac. So he came over to my tank. He says, "No, this is all you guys' fault." I says, "No, it ain't." I said, "Why would you want to take innocent villagers, through a known minefield?" He says, "We're getting ready to leave." I says, you got to call in a medevac." "For what?" I said, "For the people you killed and wounded from that village." "Oh," he says, what is a medevac?" He didn't know what a medevac, he didn't know where to call, nothing. So I called my battalion and I told them, and they put the whole thing through, and they back, all the ones that were wounded, they took them out and took them all out, even the dead ones. And I never saw that guy again. See, a lot of the villages, they only had um, old men and old women and children, because all the rest of them, the Viet Cong had either kidnapped them to be on their side and do whatever they want, or they were going to kill everybody. So that's why it was mostly old men and old women and children. And this idiot didn't even know that. If they would have sent us to Hawaii, where you're at now, for even for a week, I would still be in Hawaii, because that's how much it got that bad there that we wouldn't go back. We wouldn't go back there. We didn't see what we were fighting for. We didn't see where it was doing any good. Because while we were there, we were fighting for ourselves.